Today we're going to talk about your twin cam Dyna.
Yeah, that was my first Harley, the first Harley I ever had. So I learned two things about a Harley. The first being you can customize the bike to endless measures. And I'll talk about the second thing later on in the video.
Okay. Dwayne, when I first met you, you had this twin cam Dyna.
I did. It was pretty gnarly. I'd always wanted a Harley, and I sort of made the mistake of just grabbing the first one that came along, and that was a Dyna Y-Glide. Wasn't really what I wanted, but I knew that I could make it what I wanted.
I never knew that. That was a sweet bike you had.
Yeah, it was cool.
A real
it was
sweet
fun.
bike. So not long after you started working at DK, you set about customizing it. Why don't you tell us some of the things you did and why?
Well, yeah, I started. Obviously, I had a bunch of parts at my disposal, so I threw a bunch of parts at the bike. And it was pretty ratty. Like, it had different colored tins on it, a blue tank and black fenders. And so what I did, I changed the color, obviously, had it painted, and we just went to work at it. Changed the lighting, changed the foot pegs, changed the seat. And the thing about a Harley is you can throw a lot of little modifications at it, and they go a long way.
Yeah, I like, I mean, one of the smallest, quote unquote, smallest things you did that I really liked how it turned out was you had the spoke covers. I mean, that just totally changed the look of the bike right there. So did you have an intention to make it sort of a blacked out bike? Because I know a lot of things ended up sort of that way.
Yeah, I didn't want to black it out, but I wanted to get rid of some of the chrome. And some of the things we added to add some black accents to it was the headlight grille, added black handlebars to it, added the black ISO grips to it.
Oh yeah, just that little thing, and that before and after you're showing right now with the, I think it is even with the blacked out handlebars, but it still had those white grips on it, and then you went with the blacked out ISO.
Right.
Nice.
Yeah, added those, black foot pegs, the license plate obviously needed to be relocated because this particular Dyna had that ducktail fender.
And it just totally transformed the look of the bike, as you can see here.
Correct.
And even though I really like what the difference between this just nasty mess and this super clean look, I ended up liking what you did later on, which was...
Well, you remember when I mentioned I learned two things. The first being the possibilities are endless. The second being it never ends. So yeah, I had all the tins painted and decided I didn't like that fender. So what I did is went with a full-size fender. It was an older FLH style fender that we'd welded the original hole shut, drilled new mounting holes that matched the struts of the Dyna, and mounted it up. And I thought that full fender on the Dyna is not something you see every day, so I thought it was cool.
Yeah, and I had more than a few people comment to me about it. What's that doing on a Dyna? It doesn't belong on a Dyna. I'm telling you what, I love the look of that full fender on that bike. It just looked really good. And of course it was unusual because not many people do it.
Right. And I wish there was someone out there making a direct bolt-on, but there's just not. This fender, like I said, is for an older FLH bike, and we had to do some modifications to get it to work. And a lot of people call in or they email and ask me what fender that was, and I just don't know. I mean, I just don't.
Well, it turned out looking really good. And you went through 2 or 3 different seats?
Yeah. Couldn't really find one that I liked. I liked the solo seat look on this particular bike. So we had the solo seat with the rubber bumpers beneath it.
So almost one of the first mods you made to the bike was adding a chin spoiler to it?
Yeah, the chin spoiler, I liked it because it was black. So it added to the black accents that I'd already added to the bike. And I mean, it just looks cool. It really fits the Dyna. It fits the Dyna frame. Whether you know, a lot of people like the club style Dynas, it fits those bikes as well. So I mean, the chin spoiler, I feel like the Dyna should come with that. You know, they just really add to the overall aesthetics of the bike.
Now, you went through a few different air cleaners. Talk about that.
Yeah, well, at first I wanted the 636V for performance reasons, and air cleaners are a personal preference. So I really like the 587 solely because the legroom it gave me with the forward controls on this bike, and I didn't realize that's what I was going to want until after the fact. So we always preach, get the right item the first time.
So when you got this bike, there were no front turn signals on it, and I think in Mississippi you're not required to have front turn signals.
That's right, yeah. So I wanted to match the Stealth LED tail light on the rear, so I went with the Stealth LED fork wrap signals on the front, and they are also run and turn functions. So the running light was really bright. It was a bright white light. It matched the LED headlight bulb that I added, and at nighttime it looked sick. It looked awesome. But then they were also really visible as well.
We actually have a product that's available to everybody right now because it's something you wanted on your Dyna. Talk about that.
Well, it wasn't so much that I wanted it, it's that I needed a new key switch, and I didn't want to fork over the money for the barrel key that, a lot of people complain that over time they get sticky, and they do, and the flap doesn't stay down that covers the key hole. So what Devin and I did is we fitted the push button LED switch to the Dyna dash. So Devin 3D printed the housing, the mounting ring for that to match the Dyna, which also matches a multitude of other Harleys, old and new. And yeah, the push button is essentially an on-off switch, but when you push it, the LED light lights up, and it just looks really cool. Hides in plain sight.
Because if someone just looked at it, they wouldn't even know it was a button, really.
Right. How many times were we at, bike rallies or shows and no one ever even knew that there was a key switch there?
Yeah. A couple other things you did was a tank lift and fender bed.
Yeah, because this particular Dyna, the Y-Glide, had a little more rake than other Dyna models. The tank lift really set it off. I went the 2-inch tank lift on this bike, gave it a really stretched out look. Obviously going to be more airflow under the tank, but I liked it just because of how it looked. It just looked cool to me. And then of course the fender bib, because like I said, I like the solo seat on this bike. The fender bib just added a little extra to the overall blacked out look of the bike.
But you also had a 2-up seat on there sometimes too.
Right, and the fender bib protect the new paint from the bottom side of the seat.
So, I mean, it was a badass bike. I liked it. I liked hearing you come up, leave on it. I mean, it was just a good bike. Why'd you get rid of it?
Well, I ended up trading it in, and the dealership bent me over pretty good on the trade-in, but there's still an oil stain on their floor where it leaked on their floor, so I got them there. But I ended up trading it in for the Softail.
Tell me again, what was the most memorable ride you had on this bike?
The most memorable ride is I took it through the tail of the Dragon both ways, but I had a passenger on there, and she doesn't really like to lean, and you don't have any option but to lean, especially on this bike on the Dragon. So it wasn't the best idea to take this particular bike down the Dragon, but it was still fun, still memorable.
You had those really low shocks on there?
I had low shocks on there.
And a passenger?
And a passenger. So yeah, I scraped the primary and the exhaust up pretty good, but
But it was fun.
It was fun.
It made sparks. If you like this little ride down memory lane with Dwayne's Dyna, please give us a thumbs up. We'd appreciate it.
Hit that notification bell so you'll be updated when our next video comes out.
And subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. It's free. It helps us out a lot.
Y'all ride safe out there.